Hello and welcome to Genealogy Quick Start. I am Shamele Jordon. You know, your stuff is important to you because you spent a long time collecting it. I imagine a document sitting over there in a corner that you can't even see anymore, writing you a love letter saying, I remember the day when I first met you. When you first found me, you were so happy to see me. Now I sit buried, tucked away in a corner. You have forgotten about me. What is the use of doing all this research, spending all this money, and spending all this time, and your stuff is so unorganized, it's not really helping you to do the things that you want to do? That's what we're going to talk about today. Today, we're going to have at least 2 ways that you can organize your stuff so that it survives you. Because if you don't organize it, I've heard way too many stories of genealogist stuff being chucked into the trash can because no one knows what to do with it. So today, we are here to help you and your stuff. Again, welcome to Genealogy Quick Start. I'm Shamele Jordon, your host. And today we have 2 quick starts. One is putting your people in profile. Jim and Michael are putting people a lot. Last week they were putting, this week they're going to put people in their profile. We'll talk about even what that is. And then in the second half, we are going to talk about organizing your genealogy stuff. So let's go ahead and bring my buddies on to the stream. Sorry, there's a lot of noise behind me. It's unavoidable. Hi, Michael.
Hi, how you doing?
Hey,
noise
Jim.
is progress. We're going to look at it that way.
Noise is progress. Yes, there's a lot of progress going on here. So how you guys doing today?
I'm pretty good. I'm pretty good. Or pretty well. I never can get that straight.
I don't know whether it's good or well either.
And please don't put in the comments which one it is, because that's not the point of our discussion today at all. This is not the grammar show, so please don't. We're not going to go there.
So I told Jim I'm gonna put him on a plan. Jim, last week he was a mannequin. So Michael, is mannequin Jim better than a live Jim? Which one do you think was better?
Respond very carefully, Michael.
The jury is still out. There are advantages to both. Maybe I'll put it that way. There's advantages to both.
So I wanted to just announce who's here with us today. Thank you so much for joining us, Paula. Nice to see you here from West Defford. Hi, Linda from Sun City Center, Florida. And Angela Allen from Houston by way of Chi-Town. And hello, Shalina from Los Angeles. Thanks so much for joining us today. So Michael and Jim have this interesting quick start, which originated from a place where a lot of our quick starts originate, and that is Michael's wonderful blog. So today, let's see, what is the title of this wonderful quick start? Put your people in profile. So what does that even mean?
Well, do you have the slide with the resume? Do you have the slide of that one up of Susanna?
I do.
That's kind of what started this, or at least started.
Talk to us about it, and we'll share it when we.
And it was a resume I made up for my ancestor who died about 1780 in Virginia, and I did it kind of to be silly, to be really honest with you, but it talked about It talked about what I perceived her educational level to be, her life skills to be, what I knew about when and where she was born, when and where she died, and when and where she got married. So it's kind of like, it's a little more than a chronology, what I thought her religion was, her social status, things of that type. It's got some elements of a chronology in it. Yeah. Got some elements of a resume in it, but some other things about her that would help distinguish her from another person of the same name. And in her case, that wasn't so much important because there weren't that many Susanna Ruckers. But for somebody with a more common name or in a more urban area or in a later time period, that ability to kind of separate them out one from the other can be crucial. And so we're going to look at another one too. We'll talk about some other ideas as well. But that's a lot of it to help make that profile or avatar, if you want to use that word, so that you know the key elements about your person. And when you think you see them in a record, you can say, well, yeah, that kind of fits. Or this dudette is not my dudette, because there's just too many conflicting pieces of information.
And what I like about it is when you do think chronology, I normally think about it document by document, right? So you're still kind of not seeing them as a full person, but when you do a resume, you're really kind of making them more like a real person. Guys, could you please? All right, so let's go ahead, and everyone, I apologize for the sounds behind me. It cannot be avoided.
This just makes you to be a real person, Shamele. That's all. So.
All right, so let's go ahead and get started with put your people in profile. So step one is to choose a person, okay? Is it always just your direct ancestor?
Doesn't have to be. I mean, if it's somebody you're having an issue with, a dead person you're having an issue with, we don't deal with your live person issues, but a dead person you're stuck on, you're having trouble finding them in records, or you're having trouble seeing if these other references are to your person, then go back and think about what you really know about your person, using some of those aspects that we talked about with Suzanne and some that we're going to see in the examples.
All right, so we've chosen a person, and now we're going to move on to step two, which is to get vital dates. So can you talk to us about that?
Well, and this is the skeleton of because this lines up as the with the chronology we were talking about earlier. That's really just the starting point, and the vital dates, the birth, marriage, death. Yeah, you might add something like confirmation onto that, or you might have to add something like divorce onto that. Those are kind of the places that you hang these things on, but they're starting points, not ending points.
And it's always good to remember, in some time periods and locations, you're not going to have a precise date of birth or date of death or what have you. You may have to approximate that. Colonial Virginia, the South, those are good places where oftentimes we just have to approximate a year of birth within a range, and that's as precise as we'll ever get. When you have to do that, you might not want to put it on your avatar if it gets to be too cumbersome, but you should have a reference to what makes you, if you think they were born in the 1680s, that's fine, but you should have some document or some reference or some reason as to why you have that time period.
Yeah, I mean, worst case scenario, even if it's just that this is 25 years earlier than the birth of their child,
Exactly.
But yeah, you gotta have something to hang your hat on. So,
and the important thing is have your reason behind it. So later, if you can more, if need be, you can go back and analyze it further or realize your reason is no longer valid or whatever. But if you don't track that, you can't do that.
Yeah, because then it's just like it could be anything. Yeah.
And I love this because a lot of times we're always chasing for things, and we're looking for this and looking for that, and then we go back and look at our pedigree and we have all these holes. One time I decided to just look at all of the vital dates and just fill those in. And I did research in my own home and found documents and, records that helped me to find those dates. So I love that you added this step in here to just kind of focus on those vital dates. So let's do step two, which is to research key relationships. Can you expand upon that?
Well, probably the crucial relationship, there's the parent-child relationship, there's the person with whom they reproduced, Those are probably the key relationships. I mean, anybody that your individual ancestor interacted with is a potential clue to more research and documentation, of course. But if we're looking at creating kind of a profile, you really want to focus on the individuals that played a significant role in their lives. So that would usually be parents and spouse. If they had a business partner for 20 years, then that's something you're going to want to think about too. But you want to focus on the ones that were truly important, not a notary public they met for 2 minutes and never ever saw again. That's not someone that qualifies as a key relationship.
Think of it as the NBC Dateline principle. When you have a homicide, you start close and work your way out.
Did not see that.
I love that because I love murder mysteries and procedurals. So you.
But if you're going to use that as a metaphor, do not over dramatize anything about your ancestor and don't make drama where there is none. That's another thing that we sometimes do. But no, your point of starting close is good.
And this is the basic cluster fan club kind of stuff that we always talk about. All right. So that's step 3 to research key relationships. So a lot of people focus on their direct ancestors only, and that's just not the way to go. So moving on to step 4. What makes them unique? What does this mean?
Well, what aspects about them could you use to differentiate them from someone with the same name? A few of these things we talked about, who their parents were and things of that type, probable occupational status, educational level would be something else to think about. Residence would be something else that might make them unique. I've got, to throw an example on, I've got 2 James Tinsleys born about the same time in Virginia. One moved to Kentucky and one did not. And so when I'm looking at, one is the son of John, one is the son of somebody else, I can't remember. But when I'm looking at records that include those two, one of those 2 Jameses, is there a residence listed perhaps? Is there something in that record about him that is suggestive that he's the son of John or the son of the other dude whose name I can't remember? But, just occupational, religion, all those kinds of things. Were they a member of the Masons? Anything that might make them distinguished from somebody of the same name.
Oh, you're muted, Shamele.
Shamele, are you muted?
I said, in a great place to find those kind of things is a place that Jim loves and has written a book about.
Could it be newspapers?
Yes, you find a lot. Would you agree, Jim?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, you can find a lot of the type of details that Michael's talking about, ways of differentiating. When we get to the slides talking about our ancestors, I'll go into some further details on the guy that I am putting in profile. So.
All right, you want to look at Pappy now?
Sure.
All right, let's take a look at your roots and branches. I'll share my screen. Can you guys hear me? Okay, good. Share screen. And here we go. Sorry. All right, can you see my screen?
It's coming. It's there. Yeah. So, yeah, I wrote a column. I was going to say recently. I see it was last August, about one of my great grandfathers. His name, I think, is rather evocative. It's Wellington Bickle Mockmer. And he was born 1849 and died 1943. He's my longest lived ancestor. And what kind of got me interested in writing about him was getting ready for the 1950 census coming out next month. This Wellington Mockmer, who my mother always called Pappy. Pappy Mockmer appeared in every U.S. census open to the public that had full household. The first one of those being 1850. He was, I think, listed as an 8/12 of a year old babe in 1850, and then goes through the cycle up to and including 1940. And one of the things that was interesting there, I had heard many family stories, some of which were documented in newspapers, about how he was a stonemason, and had helped build some of the luxury hotels in the South Mountain area of Berks County in the late 1800s. But interesting to me, through all those censuses, he is never listed as a stonemason by occupation. He's a farmer, or sometimes it gives more detail on his farming. But I know it's not just family lore, because in the newspapers it would talk about him putting in sidewalks for people, or constructing other buildings for people in the neighborhood. So
was that a side hustle?
You might consider it the side hustle. Yep, absolutely. But yeah, it's very interesting to me that, if I wasn't trying to build the sort of resume that Michael's talking about, just going by keep the blinders on and just going by the census records, I wouldn't. Even if I had heard that family lore, I would have probably thought, yeah, it really wasn't. So, but the newspapers prove he really was. Oh, muted.
I think Shamele's muted again.
Oh, she's trying to keep those construction sounds away from us. So
I have a suspicion here. Right?
But yeah, here we have a lineup of various Mockmer relatives, and there's Pappy all dudded up in his 3-piece suit. I don't think he wore that very often, because the other pictures I have of him are usually strictly casual wear.
I love this picture. It's very it says so much about him. It's nice to see him as a person, as opposed to just his name on a sheet of paper.
Yeah, absolutely. And another story about Pappy is he was the one who bought the house I live in into our family 100 years ago. And indeed and this is lore, because there's no document to back it up. The lore is that he told my mother that when he was a young apprentice stonemason, he helped lay the foundation for our house around 1870, and then bought it 50 years later as his retirement farmette.
Oh, is that the house right there that they're standing on?
No, okay. No, that's I have to do more research to find out what house that is. So
I love that picture. Great picture. Michael, did you want to share? Are there any documents that you wanted to share?
We can talk about the William Apgar frame. Is that in? That should be there, isn't it?
Yes.
We can talk about William. While I'm waiting for that to load up, he was a difficult guy to trace, and this is a really rough outline of him. Frame is not his middle name. It really is unclear at this point. Frame actually should be his last name, but he went by William Frame Apgar. He was adopted. There's a lot of this not in the screen because there's just not enough space. He was adopted by an Apgar family as a baby. The adopted parents died, and the Frame family adopted him after that. But my real concern with him was things that happened to him after he married and had children. And so trying to trace him in different records in the Chicagoland area. So this summarizes what I know about him. The birth, where he lived in Chicago, he moved around a lot, as some individuals did, but all those addresses are in the general Pullman area of Chicago. And I know his spouse, his religion, not really sure, to be honest with you. Educational level is kind of a guess. And then I added this on there because it's crucial to my problem. He disappears around 1921 and was never heard of again. And was trying to locate him in other records. I didn't know where he went. Did he enlist in the military? Did he get drafted or what have you? But these are the key things that I know about him. I use because William App, the last names he's got are not the most unusual names. There's more individuals than you might think of with those names. And so this helps me, to kind of say, yeah, that could be him, or no, that could not be him. His occupation is another key. There was a guy that I found in a city directory about 1915 or so, I think, that I thought might have been him, but the guy was an attorney. So poof, that eliminated him pretty quickly. That was kind of an easy elimination. But, just using this, the thing that I would add to this for any of these things you've got in their resume, if you will, have a source for it. You don't have to list it on your resume cheat sheet, but have a footnote or something so you can go back and why you think that was when he was born or what his occupation was. I don't have to cite that I don't know his religion. It's kind of hard to cite when in that instance. But the other facts that I think I have about him, I want to have a citation for his residence. I could map on this sheet. There's not room for that, but that would be something good to put all on one map, where all those were and what years. If I know them, he was at those addresses to kind of get a better fix on him a little bit.
Did you want to look this suit? Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I just wanted to snark that I think he's going to find out that he went from being a day laborer to an attorney, got disbarred, and then became a house painter.
Well, that's always possible. The other scuttlebutt is he's not the actual father of the person I thought he was the father of, which is a whole nother. His wife had a short-term relationship during the duration of the marriage that resulted in the birth of a child, and then she got back with it. The DNA is pretty clear that's what happened.
Okay. So there's more. You don't have to make up the drama. There's plenty.
There's plenty of drama. In this case, there's plenty of drama to be had. But when there is a lot of drama going on, that's when some of these things are important for you to do. One, so you keep the information straight in your head. Two, so you stick to the facts, because sometimes there's enough facts as there are, and not any extra things that someone else might have dreamed up along the way there.
Did you want to show some more William documents?
We've got just a couple documents. He's got a different birth date depending upon. This is his draft registration card from World War I. This is, I think, probably the last document I have for him. He can't be found in the 1920 census. He used the last name Apgar at this point in time, which was the last name of his original adoptive parents. He was born in Chicago. He gives a specific date. I have not been able to find anything. Chicago was keeping birth records at that point. I can't find anything that matches that date. That is not the month and year. I think if we've got the 1900 census there, if that's coming up, that's not the month and year that's given for him in the 1900 census when he is living with his second set of adoptive parents, the Frame family. But he signed it. Signatures are a good thing to help match people.
Signatures are great, and he wasn't African American because this little tab is still.
Because the triangle is still there. You're correct. That would be something if we're talking about the avatar. I'm kind of glad you put that up, and you mentioned the signature because I'd forgotten that really the signature is another key element to their avatar or profile, because that should relatively match over time. Of course, when people get ill or what have you, it may change a little bit. But if
just
they're in good health,
age. Mine has changed because I remember I was so excited to write my signature, and now it's just like, oh, leave me alone.
but that's something else that's the key part of their profile or avatar too, is their handwriting.
So, Michael, to me, it looks like if we look at Susanna as well, is it Susanna?
Yep.
Yeah, we look at Susanna Rucker. It seems like you kind of have like a template going on here. Do you have a standard template? Is this a repeatable step that you do?
Right. With The vitals are in there. In this case, I added the husband. I've got her addresses. She was a landowner. So that's, key. So it goes back to anything, we kind of use the resume kind of as a jokey. And when I did this the first time, I didn't give you the first one I did because it talked about how she knew how to make soap and knew how to manage money. And I got a little bit facetious with it. But this was kind of focusing more on things I knew. Her religion isn't there because I'm not really certain what religion, probably Episcopalian, but I don't know. Her educational level's kind of a guess. I think she was most likely literate, but that's really a guess based on her social class. In this instance, I kind of suspect she was reasonably at least functionally literate.
Okay. And
I've got where she lives for those time periods and the fact she was a landowner as well from the time of her husband's death until her death.
I love the resume. The resume is a really good.
The great one I found, I didn't think of this one as an example, but when we went through my great aunt's home after she died 2 years ago, I found a resume she had typed up in 1971 when she got her teaching job in Illinois. And I did not know she had taught in California for a while and done I'd heard things that she had done before whatever, but the resume, boom, 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 boom. It lined it all out in great detail. It was really a great document to find.
It's a really great document to find.
And that was a true resume, in addition to the ones that we're talking about today. They're a little bit different.
So
you're hired.
Michael. Yes, they're hired. We're hiring Savannah. So step 5 is to document, review, and share. And that's what I was saying. Like, it looks like this is repeatable steps for you. It's kind of like a template.
Right, exactly. Right.
Not that we need to give anybody a template, but everyone can create kind of their own set that makes sense for their ancestors.
Right. And as we mentioned with the review and share, anytime you compile something and put it together, that increases the chance that you notice errors, omissions, and all those kinds of things we've talked about before. These are also a neat, shorter thing to share with someone else. And you could share the quick version with a relative that's kind of somewhat interested in genealogy. And then if you could give the end notes or the footnotes why you think these things. You could share that version with someone who's a little in the more obsessed range of genealogist.
Yes.
Aim it to your target market, shall we say.
Agreed. So thank you. Let's run through all the steps to put your people in profile. And I don't know if we said Michael has a blog post on the ancestral resume, so check that out. Michael, if you give me the link again, you'll put that in chat.
Give me
Step 1, choose a person. So that's focusing, like Dr. Shelley Murphy said, focus on one person, get their vital dates. Then step 3, research key relationships or that fan club cluster. Step 4, what makes them unique? Find that out. Step 5 is to document, review, and share. So those were the steps for put your people in profile. So thank you guys very much. I'm going to put you away. Jim, are you coming back or am I putting you away?
I'm not going anywhere.
Okay, don't go anywhere. Just hide for 1 second. All right, guys, give me 1 second. All right, welcome back to our second quick start. You guys, let me just tell you, I made a mistake and I put the wrong date for us to go live. I got like 5 emails. Shamele, are you coming on the date? Are you coming on tomorrow? So it sounds like some guys have some stuff that they need to organize. So we are here to help you today with organizing your genealogy stuff. Let me bring my buddies back. Michael said, we're not organizing everything. I said, yes, we are. Anything you guys want to organize, you can put it in the chat and we will talk about it. But like to Michael's point, we are going to focus on your paperwork and like your main stuff. But before we do, I want to say hi to those who came in since we started. Let's see. We have someone named Dave from Liberia. Hello, Dave. Hello, Wanda Looney in Birmingham. Hey, my cousin made it. Floyd Riley. His stuff is so neat. He don't need this show. He could teach this show. Just kidding. Denise Payne from Amsterdam. How you doing, Denise? Hi, John Lucas Allen from Collegeville, AAGG, both of the groups in Philly. She loves genealogy. Hi, Benita Gale from North Carolina, and Quintilla from Cleveland, Ohio. Hey, Paul, how you doing? Paul and I are map buddies. If you need them, you always need to have a map buddy. Hi, Susan from Reading, PA. You're
Reading, PA, right near me.
right near you. Hello, LaJoy from Columbia. Hello, Regina Vaughn from every group in the Mid Atlantic, and Tamika Strong. How are you? Wade and Grace Ann, how you doing? Dean Henry, AAGG. Did I say Tamika was Georgia? Yes, Tamika was one of those that said, Shamele, when are you coming on? Here we are, Tamika. I'm glad you're here. And Tamika loves the resume. Angela does as well. Hello, C. Davis in Detroit. All right, let's get going with organizing. So, I love talking about organizing. Do you guys like talking about organizing? So, guys in the chat, if there's something else you want to organize besides paper, put it in there and we will circle back and get to it when we have time. So, step one for organizing your stuff is to choose a system. So, which your guys' system? What do you use? And in the chat, you guys can tell us what system you use. Basically, there's two in general. There is the surname system, family group, and then there's my way. The category, the right way, the category system. Are there any other ways, would you guys say?
I guess a lot of the others are variants of those two. Yeah.
I would say, yeah.
They're kind of the major fork in the road. So.
All right. So I know when I first started, I'm gonna share the screen real quick. I did the surname system, and so basically, my cousin Floyd said, Shamele, you better find a system early on, and so I worked really hard on that. As hard as I looked for people, I looked for a system, and this was the system that was presented, I think, on Family Search, and it was a great system. You know why? Because I got to buy office supplies in different colors. And so what they said is to divide your stuff up by your grandparents. And I got colors. I had the blue ones for my dad's side, the yellow ones and the red ones and the green ones. They made a lot of money off of me. So that's one way to kind of organize your stuff. Jim and Michael, how do you guys use the, you guys use the surname system. How do you organize?
I meant to take a photo of my file cabinet for you, and I never got to that in the last week. But you would see I've got one big file drawer with all the surnames A to Z. It's that simple because I haven't simple-minded is what you might call it.
Mine is similar to that, except I have a lot more file folders because years ago when I got more than every ancestor had their own file. There'd be a big surname file, but because I didn't have to leaf through as many pieces of paper. And then when someone got more than a handful of documents in my surname file, poof, they got their own file, just so I wasn't having so many folders to go through. That when you file by surname, the problem is a death certificate is pretty easy. You put it in that person's folder. But obviously on a death certificate, there's other names on that document. And then there's some like the marriage document.
Marriage is difficult. Where do you put the marriage at?
Do you put it with the husband or do you put it with the wife? And I think I always put it with the husband, I guess, is where I always put it. And if that bothers you, always put it with the wife and be consistent. The real key is you be consistent. If you decide you want to put it with the wife, then do that all the time, not just on Monday and Tuesday, but all the time. And consistency is the real key with that.
And what's really key, I love what you said, is it's about how you work. everybody's system, you got to tweak it a little bit. No, I kind of like what you guys said. It's basically you're doing it by person. Like I really, it's kind of, that's really nice. I have to ponder that. All right. So that's you guys system by person, by surname. Let's see out there. What do you guys do? How do you guys organize your stuff? So let's see chronologically. Tamika loves school supplies. All right. So I use the category system. And so what that means is I file all my census records together, all of my courthouse court records together, all of my vital records together. And then based off of whatever it is, I will have my second level. So for death records, I have a death binder. All the death records are together and they're just alphabetical. They're just alphabetical. When it comes to like wills and stuff, sometimes I do that by state. And then, sometimes chronological, but normally it'll be by person. Only thing I kind of do chronologically is maybe like sometimes census records when I used to collect those. Remember, we used to print those things out. Do you throw those away? I still have like a whole like binders of census. Do you guys still keep them?
I keep
I
them.
don't make more, but ones I already have.
All right, I'm going to share with you guys some of the categories that I use. Let's see, can we see it? Yeah, so these are the categories that I, some basic categories that I use. Vital records started out as just vital. And then as I grew, I collected all these death records when I was in Alabama and Birmingham, I think. And then I separated them out. I have birth records, death records, marriage records, all together in their own separate thing. Because to me, it was really hard doing it by surname, because what would happen is, the woman has multiple names. And when I think so, what Tony Burrows always stuck with me, he said, it needs to be easy to file it, and it also needs to be easy to retrieve it. And when I did the surname system, it got really crappy really quick. So let's go on to the next step. What's the next step? The next step is to create a declutter plan. So how do you guys declutter yourself?
Well, basically, that would just be filing all the stuff you should have filed when you found it. You know what I mean? To be honest, I'm not trying. Well, I guess I am trying to be facetious. That's because a lot of us we either do that with paper or we do it with digital files. It just goes right in. I'm finding stuff. I'm making discoveries. Download it. I'm not organizing it. I'm not filing it. It's just my downloads folder is just getting huge. So I think probably the best way would be just to say, I'm going to devote a half an hour a week of my genealogy time, an hour of my week, whatever you feel is reasonable. And instead of researching or getting more stuff, during that half an hour, I'm just going to organize some things I've already got. Digital files in my downloads, paper in that stack, whatever it may be. The best plan is just, I would say, set a certain amount of time allocated to just dealing with those things you've not put in a folder or a file, however you do it.
I'm going to Tamika asked about subcategories. I think I have 2 slides that kind of show some subcategories. So like if I have a courthouse, like I started out as a courthouse binder and it had the sections of deeds, mortgages, and wills. But now I have a total just deed folder. And sorry, I didn't mean to do that. And the subsections for that is however it works best for you. Surname worked for me. All of my deeds are by the surname, all the mortgages, wills. Because when I think about I need a will, I think about the person's name and I think about, the type of document. I think I might have one more. Nope. Oh, back to the declutter plan. So seriously, decluttering is a huge problem. Like Michael said, we download, download, download. Think about what you can do in 30 days. And I like to think about it in three piles. Um, because it can get pretty cumbersome if you do it more than that. So you know where those stacks of papers are, pinpoint them, and go through them. Create three piles. This is something I'm going to file. This is something that's obviously for the trash. And this is something that is questionable. I'm not sure whether or not I'm going to keep it. And really, with the dilemma pile, do you love it? Do you need it? That's going to be, once you get through the dilemma pile, that's what you do. You go through that and you just, do I really need this stuff? Is there another way for me to have this? And then once you have those three piles, then you take the two file stuff and then you separate it by however you're going to do your system, whether it's going to be by person, as Jim and Michael do it, or by category. So for me, it was very easy. Put all my census records in a pile, all my vital records in a pile, all of my court records in a pile. But think about it in 30-day increments. Of course, you want to clean everything, but what can you do in 30 days?
You know what I would add to your file pile or your file circle? Why am I pointing at that? What I would add to that, we've talked about the things you copied. Good idea. The things you've copied and found online or whatever. I would add to that pictures, letters, other family ephemera that you have, perhaps the only copy of, that needs to go in your file pile too, all those items. And really, in terms of prioritizing, then those, the census records and the deeds, that's all stuff you want to file at some point. But those other pieces of family ephemera, the letters and all that stuff, the photographs, that should be high on your priority if you had the only copy of that.
Oh, yes, definitely high on
the
priority. So Dean Henry asked an interesting question that I would love to pose. He said, do you also scan and attach these documents to your ancestry.com tree file? I don't spend a lot of energy on my ancestry tree because it doesn't belong to me. I will do it for my desktop stuff. What about you guys?
I do it for my desktop.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah,
I can also. Yeah. I was just going to add, you could also put some of these things in a Word file too. When you attach them to your tree, then it's kind of like stuck to the tree. And the files are there, but they're tied in that format. If you put them in a Word document, copy and paste the images, you can annotate them and comment on them right there. If that works better for you than attaching it to your tree. The one thing I would suggest with the family ephemera stuff, is to share it while you're filing it. Share it. That should be a part of that process. Okay, I'm going to scan it or photograph it or whatever. I'm going to file it and I'm going to share it at that point.
Mm-hmm. And my aunt is doing something because she got all my grandmom's photos, and everybody sends all of their kids' photos to grandmom, and my aunt has so many photos, and she started just sending them back to us. Like all the pictures of us, or all of them, or my cousin and their kids, sending them back to them. And so sharing is important because that's how the things survive over generations. We were blessed with photos. Some people are so stingy with photos. Why are people stingy with photos? But we're lucky we have
unresolved issues. That's the unresolved issues. Like recently, I have a letter my grandmother's niece wrote to her in 1938 when my grandma's niece was 16 years old. Okay. And the niece died this January, as a matter of fact. She was in 90 something. And I found the obituary. I got the name of the granddaughter. I Googled the granddaughter. She lives in California, has one granddaughter, now that I'm pointing again. And I just emailed her on a whim. I said, "You never met me, whatever." But I said, "Sorry." I knew her grandmother. And I said, "I got this letter your grandma wrote. Would you be interested in it?" Whatever. and she was tickled pink.
Oh
I
my.
don't know. I didn't see a picture, but she was really excited when she got the letter. Told me a few things, and and she said, "Oh, my mother met you." I was a little kid. And I don't remember that, but anyway, and it helped jog my memory of. So I shared it with her, so she had it. But I got some benefit from that because in our brief email exchange we had, I remembered some things I had totally forgotten about, and I put those in my other personal files. So it helped me out too. But you're preserving it, and you want to do that, and sharing is an important part of that.
Susan has a question. She asked, I use the surname system, but don't know how to handle the articles that mention a bunch of people, usually relatives. That's why I use the category system, because it drives me crazy. I use the category system because of stuff like that. What do you guys do with your newspaper articles or other things that mention multiple people?
Jim, do you have an answer for that?
Not really.
I would put like the main person. If the article is about the main person, I would put that with them. But newspaper articles, I would have a separate just category newspapers, and I'll talk more about that.
Yeah. They do kind of defeat the surname system. One thing, if you're old school and doing it in file manila files, is maybe on the inside inside cover of the file folder list some things that are in other files or that will be found in a newspaper file, something like that.
Right. Going back to how office hours used to be dealt with years ago, it would say, there'd be a slip in there, see this file or see that file. So you could do that in your paper files.
Yes.
Digital files, you could just simply, if there's significant mention of 2 or 3 families, just save it 2 or 3 times.
Yeah.
Would be, one way. I have a tremendous, when you got people in a little tiny rural area, lived there for 24,000 years, you've got, I'm being facetious, but not quite. You have a lot of those things. And so putting them in multiple places is one thing, or using the approach Jim mentioned is another.
I thought maybe you had done some deep ancestry DNA tests to prove that 24,000. So
I just pulled that number out of thin air.
Forget the Y Adam and the MT DNA. We've got the autosomal Michael.
No, I like how you mentioned, putting the reference in there similar to how they might have it in the archives. That's how we need to see our stuff. This isn't a hobby for us. We need to see it as if someone were to come and do research in our personal archives. How should it look? Set your stuff up that way. That's how I see it. That's how. What are you drinking there, Jim?
Diet Coke. Diet Coke in a beer mug. But
let's move on to the next step, which is, I'm going to see it. Use the same system for online and offline. And so that was one of the questions that was in the chat. I do the same thing. How about you guys? How do you file online?
The exact same folder structure. I mean, it's if you're old school and started with paper file folders, as some of us did, your file folders on your computer, you may have more of them that you don't have paper copies of. But that structure, or your books or whatever you use, if you don't use a filing cabinet, but that structure, my computer file folder structure matches what's in the filing cabinet, for the most part, the organizational scheme.
I do the exact same thing. And guess what? I skipped the step. Which is step 3, which is to use consistent file names. To me, this is where digital really works and turns your laptop into like a super duper, like your super archives. Michael, what kind of file names do you use?
General, number 1, you want to be consistent across the board. And for me, it's usually last name, first name, location of the document, will book, title, page, and volume. I like to have all of that on there. If it's an original, not for a death certificate necessarily, but if I'm pulling something from an original record book at the courthouse with a volume and a page number, that's got to be in the file name because it's not probably going to be on the image.
Yeah.
So that's crucial. How you form that up can maybe vary a little bit. You want to be reasonably consistent when you do that, and have the same, this is first, this is second, this is third, and whatever. But if you mess a few up, that's okay. But you want to be consistent with
Just be consistent. So you got to me, you want to think about, when I go to search for that document, how do I want to search, right? And so if I want a deed, I just want to be able to type in deed and be able to see all my deeds. Birth, I want to be able to type, think about it in that manner. For my newspapers, I just type in news, because everything I'll share with you my naming system. So for most of my records, it's the category, and then underscore how I might file that. How does it make most sense? For my newspapers, I want my articles in chronological order. So I'll put it news, date, and then something about the title. For the deeds, it's the from to. And when I was doing really, really heavy deed research, I just put the repository I was getting them from. For census, it's always the year. I had started trying to put the name on there, but I just like having the year in there. And of course, you're including like the surname. So think about how you want to search for it. I can put in a surname, and I'm going to bring up all of the documents that have that surname in it.
The other thing I would mention when you're downloading images of, like, the deeds comes to mind. When you download that document, you want to make certain that either in the text of the document itself or in your file name is enough information for you to create a citation for that document later.
Yes.
Without you having to go back and re-get it. So, if you're not familiar with how to make citations or what goes in those, find out what those key elements are, because if it can waste a lot of time if you've downloaded a bunch of deeds and then later realize, I don't know where I got these. I think I know the name of the courthouse, and that's it. I don't know what book. It was in a book. It was in a book on a page.
So I had one of those days where I was at the family history library in Utah, and my brain was fried. It was probably like day 6. You know how it is. You're at that microfilm all day. And I just said, I'm just going to collect all the tumor deeds from the places that me and Floyd need them. And so I was a scanning machine. And the way I kept it in order is to create these folders with deed and the from and the to, and then just drop them in there, plop them in there. And it was just very easy for me to organize them and just share them with Floyd that quickly. So.
Good deal.
Let's see. Let's move on. Let's see. Make sure you guys add your questions. We're running out of time. Let's see. We do have some questions. Let me move on to the next step. Let's see. I'm reading. Will we see your genealogy workspace so that we can see what an organized family historian does look like? Very cute, C. Davis. Who's the C. Davis person?
That sounds like a ringer to me. Yeah.
That's exactly why I'm not in my office today. No, I actually did want to show you some stuff, but like the whole toilet thing. So let's move on to the next step, which is step 5. Is to maintain and adjust as needed. And so, like I had said, when, Floyd told me to go get a system, I went and got a system. It didn't work for me because it was a mess within a month, or I think I went on 2 research trips and it was a mess. And I adjusted. That's when I heard someone who created software. I don't know if it was Clues. Someone created software where they organized everything by category. And that's when it went poof. That's how my life is going to be better. And so, Michael, have you guys had any systems where you just said, yeah, this sucks, and you had to change course?
Well, the problem is no matter how you organize it, there's going to be pitfalls to anything it's going to have some limitations. You know, when you've got people that intermarried quite a bit, and you've got documents that as I have quite a bit of this, you've always got documents that mention 2 or 3 people that are, you know, people you're aware of and are related to. That can be tedious. And so one thing I do on the file names at the end, if it mentions somebody else besides the main person, if you will, I'll tag that surname or name there so that it goes back to, it comes up as a search when you do a search of your of your file names.
Yeah, pedigree collapse is not your friend.
All righty, so let's see what those steps are for the online genealogy, organizing your genealogy stuff. So choose a system, choose one that works for you. Then you want to create a declutter plan. I suggest do them in 30-day increments. Start with paper, then start dealing with that other weird stuff. Use consistent file names. Realize that you are building up archives, your personal archives. Step 4, use the same system online and offline. And step 5, maintain and adjust. I mean, after you leave the conferences like a Roots Tech or NGS, you really need to set, like I set a goal of like 30 days to file all that crap. Like what do you guys suggest? You guys do that too?
Really, as soon as possible, because you know, especially cue the age joke, Michael. Especially at my age, where my recall just isn't as sharp as it used to be. So,
well, and for regardless of your age, real life intervenes, and often when real life intervenes, you forget. By the time you go to organize it or whatever, or follow up on it, you've forgotten key details. Regardless of age, real life just sometimes sucks that right out of you if you're not careful.
And one thing that I do, I've been doing this lately while I'm researching, is I open up a Word doc or a Google doc, and I just type my notes and footnote right then. Control, what is it? Control Shift F, and it can be crude. Just put something in there so that as you're going on and you're getting these little bits of information, you are collecting those footnotes. So, yay. I enjoyed that. Oh, wait, hold on. I have a German question for Jim. Oh, Paula, we will get you in touch with Jim. It's a private German question. Guys, thank you so much for helping talk about organization. You guys let us know if there are other things that your genealogy stuff that you want to organize, and we will help you with it. Thank you so much for joining us today on Genealogy Quick Start. Have a good day.
thank you, Shamele.
Bye. Where's the button? I can't see it. There it is.